This is a lie. It's a total lie.
Nobody really has a map of the battlefield.
Oh my God.
Incredibles 2 is so much fun. There's so much detail. When Jack bites the electric villain, there are these little sparks. Elastigirl's motorcycle has lens flares. The Incredibles snaps frantic faces of the par kids when they log in. You could spend hours rewatching just to appreciate the craft of it. I mean, I did. You clicked. I have done that. But it's also dripping with themes, from the modernization of gender relations in the home, to civil disobedience and the morality of breaking unjust laws, to the concept of spectacle, to the American fascination with heroes, to the legal lack of accountability for the wealthy, and even to the subtle commentary that calamity is acceptable if it's calamity within the power structure. But as best as I can tell, no one has analyzed this movie directly, asking how realistic a villain Screenslaver is. To what degree are villains like this already here? And why does it matter that there are people in the real world doing similar things to this character?
Hello?
Do I have your attention?
Yes, Chad?
Of course I do. I'm appearing on your screen.
Normally, to keep you watching, I'll keep every bit of the conclusion until the end, but I value your time, so yes, there are Screenslavers in real life, in the real world, and they are partly responsible for the social chaos and political division we have been living through. That feeling that people on the other side of politics must be crazy, inconvincible, misinformed fools. Perhaps they are, but more likely their beliefs are the psychological collateral damage of the culture war. We need more truth in society, and to do that, we need to learn how to fight the real-life Screenslavers of the world. And it's not necessarily the people you'd expect. Eagle-eyed fans of this movie in particular, or of this video essay format in general, are probably going to guess that we'll examine that seriously memorable, uncomfortable Screenslaver monologue. And we could, but there's actually a subtler, more human scene that does just as much work or more. It's a scene I'm calling The Runaway Train and The View from the Couch.
How about you?
I saved a runaway train!
It was so great!
The mayor was there to cut the ribbon on this new train.
And, ceremony to Elastigirl pursued the
If you haven't seen this movie in a while, here's where we are. Elastigirl is out on a mission. She wants to change public perception so that superheroes can be legal again. And Mr. Incredible, well, he's back at home, keeping the family in order so she can be out focusing on her career. Now, I don't want to get too into the gender dynamics for this video.
I mean, she's good. She really a credit to her, but you know.
But for context, he is under the belief that he's the sole breadwinner, and watching his wife get out in the world and kick ass, it's probably making him feel a little bit insecure. Plus, that insecurity is mounted by the fact that it's not going super well at home, so he's already not feeling super good. And right before she starts celebrating her accomplishments, she questions his competence as a father.
I'm coming home right now. I never should.
No accident. Stay there and finish your mission. And you never should we, what? You don't think I can do this?
So he's not in the best headspace. Probably the right husband thing to do would be to listen to her story and validate her excitement and be happy for her and share in her success. But instead of doing that, while she's talking, he clicks on the television. He turns on the freaking TV. She is, by all accounts, the most authoritative witness of what happened. She was there, she did the thing, she saved the people, and yet, because he's feeling insecure about himself, he no longer cares about the truth of the story. In a word, Screenslaver's philosophy has won the minute he turns on the TV. He's less concerned with the reality, and he's more concerned with the on-screen perception. I think the creators of the movie want to emphasize this. He lowers the phone away from his ear, and the dialogue changes from her meaningful explanation to her saying blah, 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 which is his perspective of what's happening.
Hover train malfunctioned.
Thanking Elastigirl.
So, to put it in no uncertain terms, the minute that our hero subscribes to the philosophy that eyewitness testimony is of less value than the on-screen public perception, we have entered the post-truth era. That was an incredibly abstract way of saying what I want to say. So let's look at an example.
British people be like, right, what's all this then? British people would be like, subscribe to my YouTube.
Now, I'm not British. I'm not making this video to tell you my opinion on British politics, but if we look at Carol Caldwaller, Carol's reporting about Brexit,
A fire hose of disinformation.
we can actually see this acting in real life. This TED Talk is worth your time for a lot of reasons. I'll link it in the description below, and I definitely encourage you to check it out after you watch this video. I won't try to summarize the whole thing, but one of the points that she makes is that many of the votes for Brexit came from towns where there were basically no immigrants at all.
Which was odd, because walking around, I didn't meet any immigrants or refugees. I met one Polish woman who told me she was practically the only foreigner in town. And when I checked the figures, I discovered that Ebbw actually has one of the lowest rates of immigration in the country.
And where funding from the EU had actually been used to publicly make things for the town.
This is a new £33 million College of Further Education that was mostly funded by the European Union. And this is the new £77 million road improvement scheme. And there's a new train line, a new railway station. They're all being funded by the European Union. And it's not as if any of this is a secret, because there's big signs like this everywhere.
The towns were detached from reality. They were fearful of immigrants, but there were no immigrants anywhere to be found in their town. They believed that the EU had done nothing to help them, but there were structures, buildings, community centers that had been built in their town by the EU. They didn't trust their own eyes. So how the heck did they get these opinions? How was their perception so different from the reality? Well, the simple answer is Facebook. The slightly less simple answer is Facebook's specific ability to achieve something AI ethics researchers call political micro-targeting. Now, some examples. Facebook knows a frightening amount about you. Even if you don't have a profile, they have ghost profiles and even creepier things like the ability to detect your emotions to determine when you're feeling insecure and forward this information to advertisers who might want to sell you things to buy to boost your confidence. They also have the ability to predict some private things about your life based on your likes, things that stand out from this paper that I read. Parents together. Were your parents together when you were 21 years old? What's your sexual orientation? Are you satisfied with life? How emotionally stable are you? Etc. They don't have supervillain hypnosis goggles that they can put on you to control you. But they know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, who you are. And this ability to manipulate insecurity, to manipulate anger, when combined with money and political will, can fundamentally undermine the democratic process. Democracy cannot function in a post-truth world. George Orwell is oversighted and understood. But this is part of what he meant in the book 1984 when he said, who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. We can amend it for the digital age. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the perception of the present controls everything, the past, everything. It's part of why this TED Talk is worth your time. Carol exposes this, not in the abstract, but as a brilliant piece of reporting. She exposes a particular institution that does this kind of manipulating for a living and a profit. You may have heard of it. It's called Cambridge Analytica.
He told me how this company that worked for both Trump and Brexit had profiled people politically in order to understand their individual fears, to better target them with Facebook ads. And it did this by illicitly harvesting the profiles of 87 million people from Facebook.
Their entire job was to sell pieces of the election for Brexit based on this fine data that they have about people. I'll leave you with this example of one of her many amazing quotes about the democratic process and its relationship to technology. The whole TED Talk is worth your time.
Because what the Brexit vote demonstrates is that liberal democracy is broken. And you broke it. This is not democracy. Spreading lies in darkness, paid for with illegal cash from God knows where. It's subversion, and you are accessories to it.
Hey, a quick editing note here. I just spent the last 35 minutes just looking at the conclusion of this TED Talk, trying to get the perfect quote. Literally, the whole thing is good, and you should watch it. But in the spirit of this video, the question is, how real is Screenslaver? How real of a supervillain is this? I just wanted to end with this little bit about, in this section with this little bit about Mark Zuckerberg. This is a pretty supervillain move.
Our Parliament has been the first in the world to try to hold you to account, and it's failed. You are literally beyond the reach of British law. Not just British laws, this is 9 parliaments, 9 countries are represented here who Mark Zuckerberg refused to come and give evidence to.
It would be great if we could stop here and sort of say, wow, it sucks that Zuckerberg is pressing buttons and selling democracies all around the world. But unfortunately, it is more complicated than that. The second technology emerging is not just political micro-targeting, but automation, bots, trolls.
We're challenging 8.5 to 10 million bots a week, of which about 3/4 of them wind up removed totally automatically from the service.
Wait. I'm sorry. Did you say how many a week?
8 to 10 million accounts a week.
YouTuber and all-around good person Destin from Smarter Every Day did a brilliant piece in 4 parts about this. In particular, he examines bots on Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. It was one of the only videos of his that I found genuinely frightening. There's an international AI arms race happening. Technology regulators are attempting to stop mass-scale misinformation, while disinformation campaigns are attempting to find ways to skirt around these requirements, the regulations. Why bother with guns targeting flesh when algorithmically generated content can target minds? Again, that's abstract, so let me just play a clip from Destin's Smarter Every Day.
And whoa, look at this. All these videos are exactly the same title, exactly the same script, but they're all just a little bit different.
After Trump sends note to Ginsburg, he breaks silence on plan for Supreme Court.
After Trump sends message to RBG, he breaks silence on big plans for Supreme Court.
After Trump sends note to Ginsburg, he breaks silence on plan for Supreme Court.
After Trump sends note to Ginsburg, he breaks silence on plan for Supreme Court.
The content was essentially the same, it was just arranged in a different way.
Several copies of this video were uploaded in the same day. Destin goes on to explain that the story is fake, of course, but not only is the story fake, each of these videos has a particular tweak to get around YouTube's content moderation algorithms. YouTube has tools and is creating tools to fight against uploading repeat videos like this and misinformation, but they can't act fast enough to stop all of it. The AI arms race is happening, right? But even in the context of that arms race, this kind of mass upload is a brute force attack. Destin's video has many other examples. It's a 4-part series, and literally all of them are worth your time. Every single citizen of the digital age needs to understand these things. But one example that I will leave you with, because it's the quote from the beginning of the video.
Nobody really has a map of the battlefield, a full map of the battlefield. Yes, Facebook has their map of, Facebook land, and Twitter has their map of Twitter land, but, nobody knows what's going on in all other parts of the internet, and it's hard to win a war without a map.
This shook me, and it changed my perception. Scholars are now starting to study not just how individual groups of people are building armies of bots to work on one platform. Like a coordinated assault, lies can be amplified by land, air, TikTok, and Instagram.
Explain that these campaigns are coordinated attacks that span the whole internet, and it appears that Reddit is being used as a way to scale disinformation campaigns from smaller places on the internet up to more mainstream outlets.
We don't have a vocabulary for this yet, short of calling it a strategic online multi-platform internet culture information war. Right? Troll is too weak a word for digital soldiers on a postmodern battlefield where shared reality is at stake. We must, unfortunately, not stop here either. We have to confront the fact that it's not just bad guys attacking Britain. The threat, like the founders foresaw, is foreign and domestic.
Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control.
We think we have it very well under control. We pretty much shut it down. A lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat. We're in very good shape. I think it's going to work out fine.
Very well under control in our country. I think that's a problem that's going to go away.
It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed.
So that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. This is deadly stuff.
3 weeks later, President Trump told the American people a totally different story. Then on March 19th, with nearly 200 Americans dead, the president admitted to Woodward in audio obtained by the Washington Post that he deliberately misled the country about the danger.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you...
Sure, I want you to
I
be.
wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
I hate this part of the video. I've been on Twitter, and I know that people who consume some media outlets won't want to hear me say this, that I can't tear their goggles off and crunch them to the ground. They won't want to believe that political micro-targeting and automated bot armies of misinformation and algorithmic radicalization are at fault for some of this. I've written and rewritten so many versions of this conclusion to try and reach across this divide. I want to try and make an argument to explain that conservative and liberal media outlets are not equivalent. It is not very fine people on many media sides.
The problem here is the kind of misinformation OAN is spewing right now could end up getting people killed. And sadly, their message is being actively spread by the White House.
QAnon, One America News Network, the Epoch Times, and Fox News, yes, are functioning as sources of misinformation. We can't let them win. Screenslaver is wrong because there is such a thing as truth. Expert testimony, the people who were there that saw it with their eyes. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to convince anyone who doesn't believe that already. I don't know that I'm going to make a 20-minute YouTube video and it's like, oh, here you go, misinformation, Twitter bots, Destin. Now let me just break your entire worldview that you've been invested in for many years because I made a video with Mr. Incredible. I don't think that I have that kind of power, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So I guess I'll just not water down my concluding points. 1, when we are scared and feel insecure, we are easier to manipulate. Authoritarianism, therefore, thrives in spreading fear and then taking power. The caravan is coming. Hide your kids, hide your wives. Scholars are studying the January 6th insurrection, and they found something interesting. The most common factor was not wealth, it was fear. Fear of the so-called Great Replacement, which honestly is an entire other video, so stay subscribed and I'll maybe make one if you ask nicely. So I'll just link a source and we'll keep moving. But for now, the data is coming out. January 6th wasn't just a storming of the Capitol by underemployed rural white voters pent up with anger at Washington elites. It was 93% white and 83% male, which is important. But it wasn't as many Proud Boys as you might have expected. It was early 40s, 50s, mature adults, CEOs, business people, accountants, mid-level managers. These were regular people with orange-colored glasses, told their country was under attack and they needed to take it back. We are easier to manipulate when we feel insecure, when we feel scared. I don't have a good quippy connection here, but I just visually keep thinking of the pizza guy, right? Screenslaver just took advantage of this pizza guy and used him. Anyway. Number 2, those Cambridge Analytica people, Trump knows them and has worked with them. If we take anything away from Carol's reporting, it is that Brexit was the dress rehearsal and the 2016 election was opening night. The Mueller report came out on April 2019. Carol's reporting happened before. Mueller wasn't a bombshell that hit us by surprise. It was a methodical, exhausting, careful examination of the wreckage, a confirmation of what we already suspected. Russia helped elect Trump. They used the mechanisms that we discussed: political micro-targeting, automated bot misinformation campaigns, and also just straight up hacking. And to do so, they didn't need to break down truth everywhere, just in enough counties, in enough strategic places. Number 3, when Mr. Incredible sat down on the couch and lowered the phone, he stopped trusting the legitimate authorities and instead worried about how it would look for him. In a movie, a character caring more about his ego than reality and relationship is bad. In reality, when a person in power cares more about the public perception of how well something is being handled, there can be dire consequences. I've written elsewhere about COVID, about how Mr. Rogers may have addressed it, and how we've seen that hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths came about as the result of intentional misinformation that was spread by the very news outlets I mentioned before.
Coronavirus, Juan.
If I get it, I'll beat it. I'm not afraid of the coronavirus, and no one else should be that afraid either.
It is very, very difficult to contract this virus. It's milder than we thought. The fatality rate is going to drop.
So when you hear the context, it's not quite as scary.
It's actually the safest time to fly.
People died as a result of this misinformation, and health experts are confirming this as time is passing. So how real is Screenslaver? Real enough. The character may be a fictional villain, but the philosophies, the tools, the techniques are real. Real enough to take real lives in the real world. Chidi asks in The Good Place, what do we owe each other? We owe it to each other to figure out how to fight these real-world media villains, postmodern generals in the international information reality wars, before it's too late. I'm Charlie. This Does That Make Sense to Me? Subscribe and like if you can. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to the channel's patrons, Dan, Albert, and Brian. You guys rock. You help make these videos happen. Thank you for your support as well as your encouragement. Have an awesome night.